All right, so we're going to start talking about how to point to different files because websites are composed of a bunch of different files, right? A bunch of different HTML files that are going to represent different pages on the site, but also things like image files and something that we'll get to a little bit later, CSS files. So we need to talk about how to point to files from within a file. So let's say that on our page we want to, we've got our home page, it's looking pretty good, it's okay. I've got a header, a footer, I've got some content, and I'm ready to make a new page. Let's say we're going to add an about page. Now, because when we're writing HTML, the vast majority of the page is going to stay the same, right? So if I have an about page, really all that's going to change is this middle section. We're working on a really basic site. So I don't want to type all of this multiple times. And instead what I'm going to do is just make a copy of this file and change what I need to. So there are a few ways to do this. I'll talk about two. Within Atom, I can just control click or right click on the file and duplicate. And I can tell it that I want that to be called about.html. So a lot of the stuff that I can do in Finder, I can do directly over here. I'm going to go ahead and delete that really quick. And the other way to do this would be straight from my Finder window. Here I can, let's see, I can copy, no, I can duplicate. And I can hit enter to rename that about.html. Okay, so now I have about.html. It is exactly like index.html. Except for I'll just make the changes that I need to. So I'll say this is the about page and save that. Now on my index.html page, let's make a link. So we'll say learn more about me, and I want to link the words about me to my about page. So my link element is an A, and my A has to have an href attribute, and I'll put my closing tag at the end of the words that I want to link. So again, an attribute, href is an attribute, it goes inside the opening tag. I have the attribute name, I have the equal sign, and then I have quotation marks. And inside that href attribute, I'm going to tell the browser where to find the file that I'm pointing to, okay? And we can do this in two ways. We can use what's called an absolute link, or we can use a relative link. So an absolute link is like giving the GPS coordinates to somewhere on the globe, okay? It is telling it exactly where the thing is. So if my URL is danielcarter.github.io and my file is called about.html, that's an absolute link. And I'm going to tell you not to use absolute links for a couple reasons. One is that this site might move at some point in the future, and this page might not be at danielcarter.github.io anymore. And so if we use relative links, which we'll talk about in a second, that problem is gone. The other reason to use relative links is right now I'm just working on my computer. So I don't want to load this page from the internet. I want to load this file, okay? So instead of an absolute link, we're going to use what's called a relative link. And a relative link is like giving somebody directions from where they're standing, okay? So it's like if I was going to give directions to my neighbor's house, I would say, okay, well, just go one house to the right and you're there. Go two houses to the right. So this is really easy to understand if we think about it in Finder, and I always like to use the column view in Finder because it makes it really clear what is where. So where are we? We're in the index.html file. So how do we get to about.html? Well, we just stay where we are and we go to about.html. So I'm going to save this, and then to open this file in the browser, I'm just going to drag my index.html file to my browser, any browser. So we've got, this will be the same, learn more about me, and you can see that we now go to the about page. So that's a relative link. And in the next video, we're going to start talking about images and moving into folders. And these are things that tend to trip up students. So I know this seems really simple and obvious now, but it's actually very, very crucial to understand.